idea. But then Apple officially signed a 5-year deal with Formula One to air all its races, and it's going to be in the Apple TV app. It won't be an additional subscription. So if you're subscribed to Apple TV, you will have access to every Formula One race. You support this move from F1. Is that right? How would you explain your position 3 months after the first rumors broke and we initially discussed all this?
Well, I was very negative on Sharp Tech. Then I was kind of like more, well, I can see the benefits on update. Look, I try to hold myself to my own standards.
Okay.
I have to make a call. Am I pro or against? So this is, I think, a
right here, right
51-49 sort of call on my part. But I've decided, yeah, I support this deal. So there's two perspectives. From the Formula One perspective, you do need to make money at some point. We've talked about the brilliance of Drive to Survive and how that's grown the market. Again, this is a U.S. only deal, so they still have their core markets is still monetized the same as it ever was through, like, say, Sky TV in the UK, the various channels across Europe, all those sorts of things. So this is really about this growing market that they've been trying to crack for ages. The way they cracked it was through Drive to Survive, which they don't make much money on. It's super cheap. What they give tons of access. The value of that access is astronomical, but they've made a gazillion dollars off of it by virtue of creating new fans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in theory, they have to actually make the money at some point. Now, one way to make the money is to have fans go to races. Well, the races are selling very, very well. Like, there's 400,000. It was completely sold out or whatever at Austin sort of this last weekend. So there's a bit where they've kind of already saturated that. And the way the model works anyway is the Austin promoter pays F1 for the race. And so they're kind of capped on their upside. They can extend it in the context of like 8-year deals or 10-year deals or whatever it might be. They do promote their own race in Las Vegas, so they can make sort of more money there.
But they're very clearly capped in the sense that they can't just tack on an extra 400,000 seats at
they're actually probably already at an optimal size in terms of maximizing the in-person monetization experience. And let me tell you, F1 will monetize the heck out of you in person, right? I come back to the merchandise thing. You go there, you want to buy merch. Everyone's wearing merchandise. You have to get it. And all the merchandise is very cool. You're never going to wear that merchandise ever again. But in the weekend, you're going to buy so much of it. And it costs like $80
and you see
for a
the
hat.
prices, and you then see everybody walking around with their merchandise. And I'm like, how do all these people afford $90 hats at $120?
It's an unbelievable FOMO generation machine. It's amazing. So there, it's ESPN was reportedly offering $90 million a year. Most reports say Apple was offering between 120 and 150 million. I haven't seen this anywhere else. Joe Soward, the independent reporter, has a newsletter about F1 that, of course, I subscribe to and have for years. He said 170 million. I wouldn't be surprised if he's right, because the big reported hang-up was F1 TV, which is being folded into this. So there might have been a $20 million premium for a company which really doesn't care about $20 million to get this all wrapped up. So I actually wouldn't be surprised the price ended up being higher. But whatever it is, even if it's 150 million, it's hard to turn down a 67% increase in what you're getting every year, particularly when you're already spending to reach the broad audience through Drive to Survive, where you're making very little money from Netflix and you're giving all this access. Like, at some point, you got to run a business. You got to actually make money. And so I think just even at a core basis, I think F1's at sufficient size to support their race attendance. It's a massive windfall as in terms of their anticipated revenue, and there is upside with this deal. So even when you set aside, like, just in that context, that's a lot. It's easiest for sit here and say you should have taken the $90 million, be broadly available on ESPN. That's a lot of money, and at the end of the day, I'm a businessman, and if I were in charge of F1, I would have taken the extra $60 million.
Deal. Yeah,
or maybe more. So I don't know. What would you have done? Right? I have more reasons why there's upside, but that's sort of where I start from. But what's your take?
My take would be, I hated the idea initially, in large part because I thought about what happened to MLS when they went to Apple TV. And there are important distinctions between what MLS's situation was and what F1's situation will be with Apple, because I think MLS, there was like an additional subscription within Apple that you had to sign up for in order to have full access to all of MLS. Whereas Apple TV, if you're subscribed to the service, you will be able to watch every race. So there's not an additional tier required to watch any of these races. So I don't think it's going to be quite as catastrophic to F1 audiences. And then the other thing that gives me pause before crushing this deal is this could be the F1 people being pretty realistic about what the size of the US market is actually going to be, and saying, all right, we're appealing to a luxury niche audience, a rich niche audience. And it doesn't make sense to try to be that much bigger than that, because it's probably not going to happen. And let's max out the money at Apple, and let's bet on Netflix to continue to be the customer acquisition tool that it's been for the last 5 or 6 years. There's so many people who have come to the sport in the last 2 or 3 years that have fallen in love with Formula One. And so maybe that's the only marketing funnel they need. That's what's fascinating to me about this deal, is it's a bet on Apple and also doubling down on Netflix as like the ultimate marketing tool.
Yeah, I by and large agree. I would just push back on a couple points. And it's actually not pushing back on you. It's pushing back on some of the general sentiment and reporting of this deal.
Okay.
Number one, you nailed the first and most important thing about the MLS deal that's different. That was you need Apple TV. And by the way, we're talking about the service, not the box, although the box is the best experience. Hilarious branding. You had to then also buy MLS on top of that. It's like pay-per-view. So that was so much. You were only going to get fans of people who actually wanted MLS, which ties into point number 2, which is no one watched MLS before the Apple deal. It's hilarious backward to blame Apple TV that no one watches MLS is to ascribe to the last 2 years. It's been a problem for the last 20. MLS was drawing in like the tens of thousands when they were on cable TV. Like no one watches it. The hardcore fans would, but if you only have hardcore fans, then you should monetize the heck out of them. Is what we talk. I think we talked about Xbox before, right? Xbox did this whole subscription thing, which would only work if you get a huge volume of people. Turns out that didn't happen. So what do you got to do? Jack up the prices, because your best subscribers will pay no matter what. And so you got to make money off of them. If you can't increase volume, you have to increase average revenue per user. MLS took that Apple deal because they massively increased their average revenue per user than they were going to get elsewhere. And by the way, hilarious overpay by Apple. Like MLS should be on their hands and knees thanking God that Apple gave them 10x the amount of money that they deserved. So it's not even comparable in that regard. But
it's sort of a short-term, medium-term thing with the MLS, because I don't know what the hell they're going to do when it's time to negotiate a new TV deal.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a huge come down from.
I hope they enjoy the Apple checks.
This is an MLS problem. No, is Apple TV sort of a niche service? Yes, but the fact you have to also subscribe on top, again, it didn't make any sense. And we saw this back in the day. WWE actually rolled their own streaming service. They've always been such an interesting entity and really forward thinking. They were early to cable. They were doing sort of lots of things. They actually rolled their own streaming service, which I thought, this is so cool. Makes a lot of sense. They have hardcore fans who will subscribe. They actually realized, actually, you know what? It's better to sell our rights to cable companies, because we do have hardcore fans that come there. It's a affirmation of bundle economics being sort of a win-win, and we want it to be easily accessible so people can try it out, can sort of can sort of get into it. Apple TV, so practices will always be free. There will be some races that will be free. Again, it's only going to be in the Apple TV app, but there is going to be a freemium approach, number one. And number two, you can, if you pay for Apple TV, it's not an extra subscription. Yeah. And again, Apple TV, as we've talked about, they have a lot of compelling shows. And also, look under your pillow. There's probably an Apple TV subscription there. It's kind of hard, especially if you have any Apple device, it's kind of hard to not have one. You should check. And so
I saw I was paying the other day and I was like, how did this happen? I've been getting Apple TV free for years, because there's a new 3-month.
Wait, you're paying for Apple TV and you're not paying for backups for your photos? This is unbelievable.
Well, I love Apple TV. They make some great shows, man.
And now they're going to have Formula 1. You're here
worth
asking
every
the
penny.
federal government to come in and compel companies
I'm not. I wasn't
resiliency,
asking. I was
you
just
will
like, how do
pay
you
for
solve this
Apple
problem?
One to
Bunch
back
of
up your
lazy
photos of
companies
your
out
kids.
there. Well, don't worry about it. I don't want to reopen the iCloud wars here. Do you have any other reasons to endorse this deal for Apple?
So the Abhishek angle is interesting. I am not like, look, I don't want to think about how much money I pay for all these various subscriptions and my convoluted setup and all these sorts of things. I want all sports all the time with no obstacles. And I'm fortunate enough to be successful in life that I could pay to make all pain go away. Kind of. Streaming is still a huge, don't even get started. Although I do
nothing more valuable than your time. And you spend a lot of time figuring out what's on what streaming platform.
Well, I probably spend more time pretending like I'm saving time in how I actually consume this content, but it's enjoyable time. So it's okay. But is ESPN a niche service?
Yeah.
The theory of the case for ESPN is everyone has ESPN and they can stumble onto F1, right?
Yep.
Actually, no. Half of households do not have ESPN. And if you want to subscribe to ESPN, it's $30 a month, right? Like, so actually the potential barrier, to the extent F1 claims we have a huge amount of new fans. It's half female, not your typical ESPN user base. Who are they actually acquiring as customers? And is, in fact, Apple more accessible than ESPN for this potential fan base? I think this is the upside part. It actually is possible that they are now more accessible to a new customer base, which, by the way, it's always better to fish in your own pond, right? If you can build your customer base that isn't the sports obsessive, that is building convoluted setups so that you can simultaneously watch the Packers game and the race, which I did last weekend. If you get someone, they're just there, it's an event. They're going to sit down. They're going to watch the race. They're going to talk about, the drivers and their soap operas and Charles' dog and sort of whatever it might be. Like, that's also not a terrible sort of business strategy. Now, again, we'll see if it actually works out.
It's easier said than done. Yeah, exactly. The counterpoint I would raise with ESPN is it's a linear channel that I like. There's a difference between turning on your TV and the race is on versus having to go the extra step and decide I'm going to watch a race.
A lot of people don't have ESPN though.
I know. And I mean, that's the countervailing consideration here. It's like, it might just be a completely new environment that you and I, who still have cable, haven't fully accounted for.
I wonder, are there more iPhone users than ESPN subscribers?
Almost certainly, right?
Yeah. Well, because ESPN is mostly a household, so even on an individual basis, but on a household basis, it's got to be close. The iPhone's like half the population.
Yeah.
So again, it's a huge I'm not dismissing the marketing challenge. I'm all about like convenience and obviousness and all that sort of thing. The other thing worth noting, to return to the beginning of the podcast, ESPN put zero effort into this. Mm-hmm. Like, they literally just retransmitted the feed from the UK. Now, of course, everyone in the U.S. is now, has adopted
the UK.
They want Crofty and Martin Brundle.
I was so relieved when Gruber said that they're going to keep the Sky Sports feed going on Apple. I hope that is true.
Oh, Gruber said that. Yeah, I haven't seen other confirmation about that. So yeah, there's familiarity there. That is certainly the case. But it was kind of weird that you would be watching an F1 race on ESPN and they're out next on Sky Sports, or during the race, Kraft's like, press the red button on your remote and you can see driver view. Look down your remote. I don't have a red button. Oh yeah, because I'm watching on ESPN in America, not on Sky TV in the UK. You can't ESPN. Again, it was fine for this. It was a niche product when they picked it up. It was a great, they got a core audience that would get ESPN just for F1. The timing, by and large, is great. They have something to show on Sunday mornings and things on those lines. They have like 8 gazillion channels. So if they have college football on ESPN, they can put on ESPN2 or even ESPN News, like practice sessions or whatever it might be. There was a lot about this that made sense for ESPN. And I can understand why they didn't have to spend any money on it at all other than the rights fees because they just retransmitted. I could see the allure of F1 what if Apple actually cares? Now, Apple can't fix the broadcast. The broadcast is the same for everyone. And you think about an F1 track's multiple miles long. You're not going to have multiple sets of cameras, multiple helicopters. You're not getting sort of like a immersive Vision Pro experience of the race anytime soon. But they could do more around it. they can send you push notifications. Can't wait till we get a be upgrade about that one, like they did for the F1 movie. I don't know what the Apple Maps tie-in is.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
Apple is pushing this across all sorts of disparate Apple properties. And time will tell as to whether that nets out to additional audience.
Yeah.
But it is the most interesting aspect to me because this has come up with the NBA as well. Like the NBA is going to streaming now, and they're going to be on Prime Video. And on one hand, again, it is a challenge when you're trying to acquire customers and convince them to take that extra step and open the app and decide to watch a game as opposed to just watching whatever's on TV. On the other hand, Prime has like 200 million subscribers domestically in the US, and that is more than
much larger
3 times the number of cable subscribers. Yep. And so maybe that's where the audience is going forward, and maybe that's the step that F1 is taking as well.
If you're a growing sport that is actually acquiring customers, it makes much more sense for you to be there. If you're an established sport like baseball or basketball, by and large, your customers are already on, like they've been on cable for a long time because you're an established sport. They've been fans for a long time.
Yeah.
This goes back to the other optimistic about F1. The nature of them being a growing entity, I think, does make this more compelling. And the reality for Apple is Apple's allure. They did the Apple is a life. This made me more nervous. It's like it feels like F1 is like 10 years behind as far as understanding the culture. And as your co-host Ben Golliver likes to, one of the biggest Apple fans in the world, he's also sort of a nerd and freely admits Apple maybe not so cool
really
anymore.
Struggling these days.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're. So the great part of that is Ben had a great rant about how 17's getting a little high in the number range to still be cool as far as the iPhone goes. Yeah, Ben, iPhone Air, no number right there. There is the brand aspect. Apple's value is they're a distribution network. The App Store is capturing distribution value. The Google search deal, capturing distribution value. F1 wanting to go there and wanting to spin a positive story above and beyond the extra $60 to $90 million a year, distribution. Like, that's just like, you might start out as the innovator. You might start out as Bell Labs. You end up as the phone company.
Indeed. I'm going to read one F1 hater email. Joshua says, we got a lot of requests to discuss F1. Joshua says, guys, I'm sure it's going to be a 30-minute segment on this week's Sharp Tech, so I would just like to point out one important thing about F1 that needs to ground the discussion. It's not actually a real sport. It's a money laundering operation for luxury brands and oil sheiks. The way you can tell this is the case is that all of the competitors are handsome. In a real sport, where you come up by being good at the competition itself, there are ugly people involved. This is also why the deal makes sense as an overpay for Apple. They don't care about the ratings, and obviously F1 in the US is a fad that will fall off as the Netflix show falls off. They care about tie-ins and cross-promotion, and all F1 drivers are pre-selected for tie-ins and cross-promotion. In a real sport, sometimes the stars are awkward in an advertisement. F1 doesn't have this problem. Grade the take, Ben, on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think?
Oh, from a take perspective, it's a 10. I mean, I disagree with large portions of it, but it's a great take. So
really delighted me. Thank you, Joshua.
Let this be a lesson to people coming in. Like, look, you can bring up stuff that I think a lot of it is misplaced and mistaken, but the accuracy does not go into the grading of a take. You could have a take that's completely wrong and also scores a 10 out of 10. And this might be the best take we've ever gotten on Sharp Tech.
And the most effective hot takes are grounded in some truth. And it is true that almost every single F1 driver is very handsome. And that is one of the reasons it has appeal to all sorts of young women.
I didn't bring up the women point. You did.
My wife would leave me for like 8 different F1 drivers. It is what it is.
His last sentence, in a real sport, sometimes the stars are awkward in advertisement. F1 doesn't have this problem. I do have a theory about this, by the way.
Okay.
So if you ever watch there will be on Apple. So you can also have F1 TV, by the way. F1 TV is still going to exist. if you subscribe to Apple TV, you'll now have a full subscription to F1 TV. It'll still be a separate app. So Apple will be like the ESPN presentation, however they ended up doing it, whether they have their own show or whatever it might be, or just Sky TV. And you'll also have the app. In the app, you can do things like the data view. You can get every per driver view. So you can actually be in the car or on top of the car. It flips back and forth between forwards and backwards. You hear all the radio conversation. Sit there and watch it. And watch as they're going 200 miles an hour, going around these curves, going in and out of traffic, and they're fiddling with their steering wheel the whole time. Like literally every few seconds, they're changing stuff. They change the brake balance between curves to approach them sort of differently. They're doing different engine modes. They're doing all these sorts of things and making decisions at 250 miles an hour. My contention is that actually the most important quality to being a good F1 driver is you have to be unbelievably intelligent. You have to be extremely smart, extremely fast. Like I would bet the average IQ in F1 amongst the athletes is by a significant margin the highest of any quote unquote sport, whatever you want to do it, because it's actually critical to functioning and to operating these vehicles. It turns out high intelligence is generally associated with lots of other traits, like being really charming and funny in interviews, like humor is associated with intelligence, like being graceful in different situations, being able to handle the media. Now, is it associated with attractiveness? I don't know. I've always been struck by things like movie stars are often amazing singers. Like there's just like, there's a collection of traits. Does that, I don't know. I'd have like some of the crazy like genetic people just tell me if there's something there. It wouldn't surprise me. Also, to be an F1 driver, you have to be extremely fit. Even the ugliest person, if they're extremely fit, can actually be fairly attractive, right?
True.
So they're super fit. They're super smart. Guess what? That makes for super compelling characters. This is one of the secrets to Drive to Survive. Everyone smart, and smart people are fun to watch. Like, and so I think I think that's actually very underrated about what makes F1 unique. And is it soap opera? Yes, everyone loves soap operas. The NBA is a soap opera. Like that's the truth. Like everyone loves.
It's half
drama.
entertainment. There's a sprinkle, a smattering of money laundering going on.
And it's the perfect
so
argument
20 years
sport
ago.
Because everyone's driving different cars, so you can't actually compare them. You can only compare them to their teammate because there's all these variables. So it's like a take. It's like a sport created for takes because you can't actually prove anything out. Like it might be wonderful. The case. So
it's a ridiculous universe.
Oh, is it a money laundering operation? For sure. There's like 57 races in the Middle East. Of course it is. Like life's more enjoyable, James, when you accept it. Okay, don't
accept
be
it
the
and
nerd
embrace it.
Complaining about inside the NBA. Just appreciate that Kenny and Charles and Shaq are back on your screen. Okay.
Yeah, well, my counter to James would be that he's right about 5 or 6 drivers, and then the middle of the pack, they all earn their spot there. And the high end, Max Verstappen in particular, Max is the most impressive athlete currently
since Michael Jordan.
So
Tiger Woods, maybe
definitely some real
actually
athletes.
Tiger Woods and Max might actually be an interesting comp. Everyone goes back to Michael Jordan, but particularly the sort of being raised from birth. And having, it's one of the most compelling athletes in my lifetime for sure.
Yeah.